Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Real Talk Bougie. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Make sure that your notifications are set so when I go live, post a video, do a community post, you will be notified immediately. Guys, the story that we're going to talk about right now is really kind of interesting. The sheriff of Osceola County, which neighbors Orange County, Orlando, was recently suspended from his position. They say he's been running an illegal gambling operation at a social club and has made millions of dollars. This is really interesting. Let's get into it. We're going to, and let's watch this video and then we're going to get into his hearing that took place, and it's pretty crazy.
Only Non Investigate Shannon Butler has the sources to bring the big story of the arrest of Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez after years of digging and asking the right questions.
Marcos Lopez is in federal custody.
And we were the first to show you the moment he was taken into custody in his sheriff's uniform, an arrest that took him by surprise.
From what I understand, this investigation has been spearheaded by Homeland Security Investigations, so HSI. So this is pretty crazy. Also, there was an emergency order by the governor that was put into place. So an executive order by the Florida governor suspending him from his position. And he was arrested on the job, as you can see, and taken right into custody. Let's hear more about it.
That a new sheriff will need to be appointed.
And right now at 6, we have a team of reporters to break down the charges, his troubled past, who will take over his department, and what's next in his case.
Racketeering, conspiracy to commit racketeering and racketeering. So they have him on a whole entire RICO. He has $1 million bond right now. This is not going to be pretty.
Team coverage starts now. Only we were there as it all unfolded here in Orlando early this morning, and we've been breaking new developments ever since. Good evening. I'm Martha Sigalski.
I'm Darlene Jones. The sheriff showed up there at a Homeland Security investigation office, only to be handcuffed moments later. There it is, on charges of conspiracy to commit racketeering and a massive multi-million-dollar gambling ring. Here you see on the left his mugshot taken as he was booked into the Lake County Jail, and video there on the right of his arrest. We have a team of reporters across Central Florida tonight to bring you every angle of this major story, from what's happening now to what's next. We start with Channel 9's investigative reporter Shannon Butler live at that federal building in Orlando. And Shannon, you were the first to break details here on air and online, and a lot has happened since just before 10 when you arrived there this morning.
Yeah, we're here where Marcos Lopez's Denali is still sitting here behind me. It took just minutes from him to go inside this building to the Lake County Jail. We know that because we were here when it all happened. HSI investigators tonight making it clear that no one is above the law. Marcos Lopez walked into this federal building this morning, but just minutes later, stripped of his gun and his badge, put in handcuffs, and read his rights, asking agents what this was all about. What it was about was a months-long investigation for racketeering. Today, he was arrested and booked in the Lake County Jail. According to HSI, the investigation started in 2023. The allegations that Marcos Lopez was involved in a massive gambling operation, one that was up and running here in Central Florida, not only in Osceola County, but also in Lake County. It's also one that brought in more than $20 million. Investigators saying it all started after Lopez took office in 2020. The gambling operations were allowed to set up illegally and run in his county, all in exchange for cash. Investigators writing, quote, Sheriff Lopez played a multifaceted role in expanding and protecting this illegal enterprise while using his office to shield the enterprise from law enforcement. He was immediately suspended by the governor, as others were also arrested. But this could be just the beginning. Investigators telling us more warrants are being served and more arrests could be coming. Now, we were told that Marcos Lopez did not make a statement inside, which we could figure that out just as quickly as this happened. Like 3 or 4 minutes, he walked inside and was taken quickly by car to the Lake County Jail. We are told, though, there are more, quote, targets in this investigation. It's not clear if they are witnesses or they will be arrested, but it is clear this investigation is long from over. In Orange County, Shannon Butler, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
And Shannon, you were able to break this story after years of investigating this sheriff and his office.
Yeah, we first got a tip on this story probably about 6 months ago. We have tried since then to kind of work this situation to try to figure out just how many people were involved. As you know, the sheriff has had controversies before at that department. So we were trying to weed through exactly what may or may not have happened here. But today, those rumors came to be true as the sheriff was arrested here in Lake County, again, under investigation now for racketeering charges. Martha.
A major story in our community. And of course, you're leading the way. Excellent reporting. Thank you, Darlene.
Martha,
I mean, look, these anonymous tip lines, whistleblowers, all kinds of stuff. I mean, that's why it's so important. If this is actually found to be true, which if they have been investigating and took the sheriff into custody, then obviously there's got to be some information to lead them to believe that this sheriff has been doing the most. But at the end of the day, that's why tip lines, whistleblower lines, anonymous reporting is so effective, because these could be people who've been afraid to lose their jobs. This could be any number of reasons why. And then also because this person is leading an organization, and then also is being alleged to have criminal activity. It has to be super secret until they are ready to move in, like they did, where he just basically coming into a federal building and is immediately apprehended.
Now, the suspended sheriff is not the only one implicated in this case. As you heard Shannon mention, there are 4 other alleged accomplices here. Channel 9's Ashlyn Webb is learning more about the people identified by the Attorney General's office.
On the club's TikTok, you can see Eclipse Social Club repeatedly promoting gambling. The social a lot. Fish tables and computer games with daily promotions. You can see the wall of the building lined with at least 20 video slots and other gaming machines. But according to the court documents, this is where the 5, including Sheriff Marcos Lopez, was involved in racketeering, an illegal gambling operation. According to the state business record, Sheldon Witherholt was the manager of this social club. Ying Zhang, who also goes by Kate, is listed. Witherholt, Zhang, and Marcos Lopez are accused of keeping the gambling house, unlawfully having slot machines, and setting up or promoting a lottery. State prosecutors say Sheriff Lopez and Ying Zhang were also involved with money laundering, so disguising the money collected from this illegal gambling operation. 2 other women are listed in court documents as employees or agents of this operation, including Sharon Frederick and Carol Coate. Ashlyn Webb, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
We received a statement from State Attorney General James Othmeyer saying this is a solemn day for Florida and our law enforcement community. We put great trust in our constitutional officers, especially those who are our community's first line of defense. However, the law must be applied equally, regardless of position, power, or branch of government. Right now, the former sheriff is locked up at the Lake County Jail and will appear in court later this month. This isn't the first time he's made headlines. He's been involved in several scandals. Channel 9's Sabrina Majore live at the Lake County Jail right now. And Sabrina, he is not the ordinary inmate there.
Yeah, Martha, because of his status, the Lake County Sheriff's Office says he's likely being held in a part of the jail away from other inmates. But like every other inmate today, he was fingerprinted and photographed. Information about his arrest also transferred online as part of that booking process.
No one is above the law.
Osceola County's top law enforcement officer could now face up to 30 years in prison. The now former sheriff will enter his plea for racketeering and conspiracy to commit charges during an arraignment on June 30th.
No matter if you are the lowliest criminal or high profile sheriff. Everybody receives the same due process in the criminal justice system.
Marcos Lopez first joined the Osceola County Sheriff's Office in 2003 while still serving in the Navy Reserve, and went on to work various law enforcement roles, including patrol and criminal investigations, before he was elected sheriff.
So help me God. Congratulations.
He made history at the swearing-in ceremony back in 2021, becoming the first Hispanic sheriff in the state of Florida. But his tenure wasn't without controversy. Lopez claimed to have accidentally posted a photo of 13-year-old Maddie Soto's body to his personal Instagram page less than 24 hours after the missing teen was found dead in the woods. Following FDLE's review of the incident, Lopez was added to the Brady list.
I have never seen where the top law enforcement professional was on that list.
The Brady list tracks officers who could be a problem if they testify in court because of bias, misconduct, or dishonest behavior in their past. And right now, Lopez does not have bond. Attorneys tell us that is not uncommon given the seriousness of these charges. Reporting live in Lake County, I'm Sabrina Majore, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
We are learning more about the newly appointed Osceola County Sheriff, Chris Blackman.
Yeah, Blackman is the chief of the Central Division for the Florida Department of Highway and now appointed sheriff as his career spans 3 decades in law enforcement. Channel 9 Scott Martin continues our live team coverage outside of the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. And Scott, Blackman spoke briefly just moments ago.
Darlene, I was the first reporter just to speak with him as he walked out of the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. And I'm going to step out of the way. He's right back here getting ready to speak with us some more here in just a moment. But I asked him exactly, how was he doing? And he just said, things could be better. So we'll get some more remarks from him in just a moment. But I did learn that he has started here as a trooper in 1990. That's when his career began. He worked here in Troop D as a DUI trooper, then a sergeant, lieutenant, and captain, all within Troop D. That includes Osceola County here. Here's some video of him walking into the Osceola County Sheriff's Office today after being appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis. I talked with the former public information officer of FHP, Kim Montez, and she worked with now Sheriff Blackman, and says that he was promoted to a major and moved to Tallahassee, but came back to Orlando a few years ago as a troop commander before being promoted to Central Region Chief. Now he's appointed sheriff, and she says that he knows this area well.
He was also the captain over Osceola, so he is very familiar with the agencies, the people within the agencies that work that area, because he worked that area for so long as a supervisor.
And again, he just walked out and said he would be speaking with us. So we're going to go chat with him and see some of the remarks that he has to say and have that coming up later on WFTV tonight at 10. Reporting live in Osceola County, I'm Scott Martin, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks, Scott. And
Wow. Okay. So $21 million. I mean, they must feel pretty confident about this arrest because not only is he suspended, he has already been replaced. I do remember when that picture was shared on X or Twitter. It really was a big deal because it was just like, first of all, it was a crime scene photo. First of all, it was a child. And it was shocking that the photo was shared. And, he said it was an accident. And I think people can relate to sharing something inadvertently online and, oops, and it goes out and, whatever. But at the end of the day, this was a crime scene photo of a child who was missing. Body remains were recovered. It was awful. So I guess if that wasn't bad enough. Okay, so here we are at the hearing. So let's get into it and we'll talk about it afterwards. But this is a pretty interesting situation. So racketeering, conspiracy to commit racketeering, money laundering, and a host of other things, and several other arrests, and sitting with a $1 million bond. Also, some of the stipulations is that the money that however his bail is paid, it needs to be shown and proven that this money has not come from illegal operations, because clearly they're probably going into all of his money and accounts to make sure that the sheriffs they're trying to clear and track the money, anyway, let's get into it. Let's hear the hearing and see what happened. And I guess this is where they imposed the $1 million bond.
Good morning, sir. My name is Emily Currington. I'm a county judge who is here to do your first appearance hearing. There are 3 issues that I am here to decide. First, I will advise you of the charge or charges against you. You were here on a warrant that was issued by a judge who's already found probable cause to believe that an offense was committed and that you committed it. But I will advise you of those charges. I will then consider the issue of bond. In determining whether to set a monetary bond, how much, and any conditions of bond, I will consider a number of factors, including the nature of the offense charged, the potential penalty, whether you were on probation or out on bond for another offense at the time the new offense was allegedly committed, your ties to the community, your prior criminal record, your financial status, your employment history, any record of failing to appear at prior court proceedings, and the nature and probability that you might present a danger to the community. The third issue I will address with you is the matter of counsel. Your attorney, who has announced her name and presence for the record, is sitting to my left. She's not able to get into the jail in the secure part of the jail where you are, so she came to my office and she is here for that purpose. This proceeding today is being recorded. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say could be used against you in later proceedings. You have the right to communicate with your lawyer, with your family, and your friends. Reasonable means will be giving you the opportunity to do that. Can you raise your right hand so I can place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Thank you. Could you tell me your name, please?
Marcos R. Lopez.
Mr. Lopez, you were here this morning in Lake County case number 2025 CF 1479. It's a warrant that was issued for you for 1 count of racketeering and 1 count of conspiracy to commit racketeering. Attorney for statewide, I believe, is here. Would you like to be heard as to the setting of bond and any bond conditions? I know you filed a motion about the source of funds today, so if you would include that in your remarks, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, Your Honor. Panayota Papakos for the Office of Statewide Prosecution. As far as conditions, the state would be seeking an electronic GPS monitor as a condition of any release. We would ask that the court order the defendant to turn over his passport to the clerk of court. We would ask that he forfeit any and all firearms in his possession. And further, Your Honor, at this time, the defendant is charged with 2 first-degree felonies. So the state would be seeking a $600,000 bond as to each count for a total of $1.2 million. And I will go into essentially the criteria that the court has previously announced. First, the nature and the circumstances of the offenses charged justify this amount of a bond in this case. The state has filed an affidavit. I believe that the clerk filed it in separate sections because it is 255 pages. And so I provided it to Your Honor's judicial assistant this morning. And just some highlights of the allegations in that affidavit, the detail an extreme breach of public trust, the circumstances surrounding his misuse of office as the sheriff of Osceola County are very serious. Again, there's direct evidence in that affidavit of ongoing illegal enterprise. The weight of the evidence includes that the defendant obtained between, at the very least, $600,000 to $700,000 since 2020 from this illegal enterprise in cash payments. There is evidence in the affidavit of a wire transfer to a bank account he controlled through a fictitious business name. There's direct text message evidence from both WhatsApp and cell phone applications of his involvement in this enterprise dating back to 2019. Beginning on page 110 through page 148 of the affidavit, there are numerous text messages from the defendant directly to co-conspirators. The first co-conspirator being Miss Zhang, also goes by Kate. Those direct text messages evidence that he was using his influence as the sheriff even prior to election, indicating he was very respected in his community to facilitate the illegal enterprise. There's screenshots of slot machines and things of that nature in those text messages. Of note, I would direct the court to page 175, where the defendant was actively sourcing new locations for illegal businesses. to come in from Lake County to Osceola County. That began in 2021. And then further on, beginning on page 229, there are text messages between the defendant and co-conspirator Krishna Dio Karen. Your Honor can see some of the affidavit is redacted, but there are photos of active law enforcement officers that have responded to those locations. I'm sorry, there's some audio interference. There are photos evidencing the defendant's direct involvement and also using his influence to potentially obstruct criminal investigation into these businesses in Osceola County. So that would be the first two factors: the nature and circumstances, and then the weight of the evidence. Again, evidenced in that detailed affidavit that was completed both by HSI task officers and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So there was two co-affiants in that case, with the understanding that this is a joint investigation. The defendant does not have any ties to Lake County that we are aware of. He has been suspended from office by the executive order of the governor. And moving on to subsection F, the source of funds, the state has filed a motion this morning, and I've provided it to the judicial assistant in its entirety. But essentially, this is a motion where we would be asking the court to inquire into the source of any funds that the defendant would use to post bail, or that you'd be using for collateral. Essentially, asking the court that prior to posting that the defendant show that these are not funds derived from any illegal enterprise or any illegal proceeds. And I would rely on the written motion, essentially, that the statute allows the court to conduct that inquiry. And so we would ask that any release be stayed until the defendant meets his burden of showing that those funds are from non-criminal sources.
Anything else?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
It's Abraham.
Your Honor, $600,000 is a very high bond for the nature of this crime. Mr. Lopez has no criminal history. He has extreme ties to the community in Osceola County, which is still within the state of Florida and not very far from Lake County. He does have a family. He was publicly elected for 2 different terms as a sheriff's office. He does have funds from working at the sheriff's office. This is a white-collar crime, a non-dangerous crime. There is no indication that Mr. Lopez would be a flight risk in any way, or that he would not attend any of his court hearings. He has employment history. He does have financial resources. He has family and friends that are supportive to him as well. We would ask that this bond be set in the amount of $25,000 in each count. As state indicated, he no longer has his position at this time, so a $600,000 bond for each count would be tantamount to no bond at this point. When speaking with his family, there was indication that $25,000 on each count would be affordable to the family. Although Mr. Lopez has a title, we would ask the court to still look at Mr. Lopez as a regular individual, and not just because he has a sheriff's title that he should be treated any differently. This is a racketeering charge. These are first-degree felonies. We'd be asking that his bond be set in a reasonable amount that would be affordable to his family, and that each count would be set in the amount of $25,000. In terms of conditions, there is no indication that Mr. Lopez would be a flight risk in any way. Mr. Lopez would agree to turn in his passport. In terms of having a GPS, if Your Honor would like for him to have a curfew, I believe Mr. Lopez would comply with that. I don't see the need for a GPS. This is not a violent crime. He is not a danger to society. This is a white-collar money crime at this point. GPS monitor, defense would argue, is not necessary at this time. He would comply with the conditions of no contact with any co-defendants in the case and surrendering his passports. Again, with the firearm condition, this is a non-violent crime. He's not a danger in any way. He doesn't pose a danger to the community. So we'd just be asking Your Honor to set conditions and a bond in a reasonable amount. Thank you.
Anything else?
Your Honor, briefly, We have HSI Task Force Officer Frank Tagler, as well as FDLE Inspector James Frank was on the line. There, in the course of this investigation, they determined that the defendant has traveled to Puerto Rico and there are ties to Puerto Rico. So that was the reasoning behind asking for, first of all, with the understanding that it's still the United States, we were asking for a monitor.
Anything else?
And then no contact with the co-defendants. I don't believe that I said that.
You didn't, but Ms. Ibrahim mentioned it and I had it in my notes to impose that as a condition. Anything else, Ms. Ibrahim?
Just because he has ties to Puerto Rico or that he's been to Puerto Rico still does not indicate that he would be a flight risk or not attend any of his court hearings that are required of him. So we would be arguing against the GPS monitor as a condition. In terms, and Your Honor, my apologies, in terms of the money income, he has been working at the sheriff's office, so he does have legitimate funds to be able to use to bond himself out.
All right. I am going to set bond in the amount of $500,000 on each of the 2 counts for a total of $1 million. I will require Mr. Lopez be fitted with a GPS monitor prior to his release from custody should he post the bond that I just set within 72 hours of release from custody. You'll be required to surrender your passport to the clerk's office for safekeeping, Mr. Lopez. You will be required to surrender any firearms in your possession to law enforcement. Which agency, Ms. Papakos, do you think would be most appropriate? Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what I assumed, to FDLE, and I will put that in my order that within 72 hours of any release from custody, all firearms in Mr. Lopez's your possession will have to be surrendered to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. You may not have any contact whatsoever with any named co-defendant in the case, and I will make sure their names are in the order. Your next court date for right now is June the 30th, so I'm sure your attorney will be in touch with you. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Is that
All
the
right.
bond?
I'm sorry, somebody asked a question, I think. I'm not sure who.
How do I start the bond process?
So your attorney is likely to come talk to you in just a few minutes. She's probably going to come across the street, Mr. Lopez, and do that. If that doesn't happen, they're going to let you reach out to your family and to your friends. Also near the phones over there is a list of bail bonding agencies. You might want to try that as well. But I think your attorney is likely going to leave my office here shortly and come talk to you. So you can chat with her whenever she comes over in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
And Your Honor, if I may,
Certainly.
the Mindy hearing is not necessary.
I am going to grant the state's motion as far as the source of funds goes pursuant to Florida statute 903.0462F. So the source of the funds will need to be shown to the state. If that's not satisfactory, you all will need to have a hearing in order for Judge Welke, who this case has been assigned to determine if the source of the funds has been appropriately shown. If the state agrees, you all can file a stipulation to that.
Your Honor, may
Yes,
I
Your Honor.
request that a hearing be set on Monday?
I would not have the jurisdiction in order to do that, and I do not have access to Judge Welke's calendar. You all are more than welcome to reach out to see if he can set a hearing today. I think that would be the best thing under the circumstances. I don't know what his schedule looks like, but I'm sure he'll get you hearing time as soon as he can.
Thank you, Judge.
Certainly.
That is all I have.
Anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor, I believe that there is one more co-defendant that was taken into custody, but I don't have information as to whether she's on the docket for this morning's first
I
appearances.
actually have 2 co-defendants, female, on the docket who were taken into custody in this case, Ms. Frederick, and I'm not sure how I say the last name of the other person, Cote, I believe is her name, Carol?
Yes, Ms. Cote, yes.
They are both in custody, and I will see them after I finish. I normally see all of the males, or as many of them as I can, who are grouped together, and then we move the computer so that I can see the female. So it's going to be a few minutes.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I'll remain on the meeting.
Both of them here in a few minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. That was the hearing. So pretty interesting, right? Sheriff Marcos Lopez in custody, $1 million bond, and they said a gross breach of his office. I do have the emergency order from the governor, and we'll read through it next time we meet up, but it's pretty detailed and names some of his co-defendants. So, well, alleged co-conspirators, let me say it like that. And so they just mentioned Carol Coates. I guess I'd have to pull So they mentioned Carol right there. So they mentioned Ying Zhang, who I guess they said is known as Carol, Marcos Lopez, which is the sheriff, Sharon Frederick, Sheldon Weatherholt. Let me see if I can find. So a couple of people already bonded out. These are, let me show you guys. Let me show you guys this real quick. These are two of the alleged co-conspirators that they have referred to. Let's check into this really quick. Let me show you, and then you can kind of see. Girl, this is a whole mess. Oh my goodness. Let's see.
County Sheriff Marcos Lopez waking up in a jail cell. He was arrested yesterday, accused of using his office to shield a massive gambling operation. An operation investigators say netted millions in illicit profits. News 6's Angie Casada live at the Lake County Jail, where Lopez is set to face a judge this morning. And Angie, he is not the only one facing charges.
Yeah, Justin, that's right. Four other co-defendants have been named. Two of them arrested along with Lopez yesterday, all a part of a massive gambling operation that prosecutors say have went on for years. Marcos Lopez, now suspended, was taken into custody Thursday morning by federal agents in connection to what prosecutors call a multi-million-dollar racketeering scheme. Lopez is accused of being involved in an illegal gambling operation out of a building in Kissimmee called Eclipse Social Club, complete with slot machines and an unlicensed lottery. Prosecutors say the operation netted more than $21 million in proceeds, spreading across Osceola, Orange, and Lake counties. Kissimmee Mayor Jackie Espinosa says city and county leadership are still learning details of the case.
I think a community as a whole, we're surprised, we're disappointed. Disappointment would be probably the word that I would use most.
Four other people have been named, including Sharon Frederick and Carol Cote, who also were arrested yesterday. If convicted, Lopez could face decades in prison. Governor DeSantis has already suspended him from office.
And from what we heard, already replaced him. We'll talk about this some more, but he's already been replaced. Arrests are being made. It's a huge investigation, and it's pretty interesting. Comment down below if you live in Florida. Have you heard about this? Do you know? Comment down below. Let me know what you think. Is this surprising, hearing that a sheriff is up to all of these shenanigans and illegal activity and basically using his office and position for nefarious acts? And is $1 million bond enough? Is a sheriff too powerful to be let out? I know he's just a citizen like anyone else, but he does have a position of authority. And is $1 million enough? Anyway, you guys comment down below. Let me know what you think. And I will see you next time I go live, post another video, or do a community post. Okay. I'll see you guys later. Bye.